Hello there, welcome to Get Good. My name is Bruce, and as always, I'm joined by Manus. Manus, sir, how you doing?
Pretty good. Sun is
Pretty good.
shining and yeah.
Sun is shining, but we are kind of delving into a slightly deep topic today, which is perhaps why I'm not starting this with my usual exuberance. But before we start, a quick note is that today's episode deals with mental health, and some of the responses that we'll be discussing touch on depression, grief, addiction, and thoughts of taking one's own life. And if any of that is difficult territory for you, take care of yourself. I know that I've included support links in the episode description. And also, it's perfectly fine if you want to just give this episode a miss. That is not a problem. We'll be back to our usual insanity in future episodes. A little while ago, we asked our community a simple question. Tell us about the struggles you've encountered in the hobby or the coping mechanisms that you've built to help you. We expected a handful of replies, and we got more than a handful. Some are sentence long, some running to essays. People told us about bereavement, burnout, redundancy, illness, imposter syndrome, and the quiet, unglamorous business of just keeping going. Reading them, one thing has become obvious. This hobby occupies a strange dual role in people's lives. For most, it's the medicine, but for some, it's also the ailment. One response put it perfectly. The hobby creates as many mental health problems as it solves. So today we're going to walk through what our community told us, theme by theme, and talk honestly about both sides. But Manus, maybe that's the best possible opening bridge in terms of what's your relationship to this? Is this something that you deal with, dealt with, encounter,
Yeah.
or is it more through work on the community?
No, this is the whole thing started as coping for me too. So it's like probably also one of the reasons why this was something we really wanted to do, not only because we could kind of feel it's almost like always a topic within community. Um even because it's like um quite linked to all kinds of other like things in your life. I think it's because you have so many things in your life that are kind of constants and that you need to take care of. It could be family, it could be job, you have, basic human needs in sleep and food and stuff like that. Um and you can't really those kind of blocks in your life, they won't budge too much. Well, they can, but then everything falls, right? So I think it's why the hobby is something that it's the more squishy thing in your life, which means, well, when something has to give, it's probably that. And I think that's why people feel it almost immediately when they're super stressed at their job, or things are maybe not good in their home life, or whatever it is. The hobby is almost always the first thing to kind of give, and it's not even only in a negative way, because it's also when you have a lot of energy, when you're super pumped, you're excited, you're all of these, you have the happy emotions and the highs. Well, now you get all the inspiration, and you get all the want to do something with your hands and be creative, right? So I think that's why it's so closely linked, and it was for me too. It was well, I had a break, and don't want to say it was a bad break, because it was one that we both knew was coming for a bit, and it it is what it is. It's okay. It's not it wasn't the first one, and it wasn't particularly messy or anything, but it was a long relationship, and um one that was invested a lot into. And suddenly you have this void of, oh my goodness, what do I do with my time? And how do I do something that isn't just making me think about that thing, the bad thing? And I know people use it not only for breakups, but also for, like, family issues, or uh, uh, job stress or whatnot. So I used it as a relief too, and I did for a while, which was also the reason why it took me a fair bit of time before I knew. Oh, actually, there are communities out there, people talk together. And because
Mm.
for me it was just this thing where I could do something in isolation, which was probably what I wanted and kind of needed at that time, because I tend to turn things inwards when things get hard, right? So I needed something when I was like inwards facing, I could pour myself into, and it became this. Then it opened some other doors and all kinds of other things happened. But yeah, it started as a coping mechanism for me. Yeah, it did.
And I think I'm obviously a little bit of the inverse in that.
Yeah, yeah,
We were talking
yeah.
about
You
this
found it on a
before.
high, not a low.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've struggled with mental health like for most of my life now, but not um the hobby was never kind of an answer to it, because I get like, it was just like, hey, this seems cool. This TikTok video seems great. These miniature painter folks seem like I should try this. And it was only actually through finding community and talking to people that you understand the kind of the different minds out there and how people do use it, in terms of like both a cope, but also like in many ways the cure. I think cope then is a good one, because that kind of brings us to our first theme. What I have done is all of the responses that people have done, I've tied into these themes. A number of people did submit their name. We made the form anonymous, but a number of people did submit their names with what they've done. I've just anonymized everything just to keep everything on the same level playing field. But we talked about potentially doing something with this after a fact. You mentioned about sharing it wider, so other people can see it, to see that they're not alone. That might be something that we do. So I'll also pop the form in the description below, so people can continue to submit things. Just because I think it is quite valuable. But yeah, segment 1, the brushes therapy. So the single biggest thread by distance was that for most people, painting isn't the source of their struggles. It is the coping mechanism. The language people used was remarkably consistent. It quiets my busy brain. It shuts my brain off. It stops downward thought spirals. The stories behind these phrases are heavy. People told us painting carried them through the loss of a parent, through a spouse's life-threatening illness, through PTSD from a workplace incident, through chronic illness, through a redundancy that triggered a full breakdown. One person told us that during their worst depressive episode, painting was the only thing keeping them functional, that they didn't want to be alive when they weren't painting, and they genuinely believed that the hobby kept them out of hospital. Another told us that because their hands are occupied at the desk, they now drink about half as much as they used to. And here's the fascinating bit. One respondent's therapist actually prescribed this during a cognitive behavioral therapy session for OCD. The therapist suggested finding a distraction activity, and when painting came up, they said it was the perfect fit. Why does it work? Several responses independently landed on the same mechanism, the combination of eye and hand engagement, stillness, and controlled breathing, and a single point of focus. It crowds out rumination. It's mindfulness meditation that nobody signed up for. Do you find that, Manus? Like, do you have this flow state? Like, is that something that you... I guess the question is, like, how busy is your brain, and do you find it stills it?
Busy. Uh, I think by now I'm turning 40 in a minute. Uh, I have found ways to kind of calm down better and be. I'm very mindful of it. So I have
Mm.
systems for everything. I spent time in the army, for example, which was a massive help for me because it was something that showed me that systems and rigidity was almost like a cure for the chaotic energy. They will clash, and it stresses a lot, but it is very important. And I think the thing for me was or is that it's kind of this thing where I, I don't know why, but if someone says therapy, I'm already thinking, it's not for me. Right? Whereas if someone says, "Hey, let's sit down and just quietly do a thing where we don't talk to each other and we're just a little creative," I'm like, "Oh, I'm in." And it's
Brilliant. This
all
doesn't come with any labels.
and it's almost like it does the same thing, right? Where now you're almost sat down for a therapy session. Not quite, right? Because you're not talking through your emotions and all of that. But it is a thing where it's almost having a different label, but it does kind of the same, where you have no, well, usually at least when things are going good, you have no apprehensions. So you're just sat down, you do your thing, and it is something I think where you don't necessarily have to do better at all. You don't have to do quicker or neater, or there's no have to do anything for most people at least. And that means when it turns out better, or you have these small incremental um like, you know, ups, they feel a little bit better. They feel like something that wasn't maybe put there from an outside kind of pressure, but something that happened because you did a thing, or at least it did for me for a while. Um, and of course, things can change in terms of what your goals are and what your, especially for our community, which is very like competition focused and display and growth focused. But for a while, it was not that at all. It was just moving the brush, um, almost like you wanted to occupy the brain so much that you couldn't really think about anything else because you were so concentrating on, okay, I need to, because it's so small, right? So you can't really be all over the place. Um, and I think that was the main thing for me in the beginning. I would put on something in the background even, because it meant if I had like a story, I think I heard or listened to the audiobook of Silmarillion like 20 times or something, and it's long.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're now deep into the
Mm,
lore of Lord of the Rings.
well, I listened to it so much. But it was just now you have something like an audio thing, and you have something for your hands, and you have something for your eyes. So now it's like everything is kind of okay. Now I'm just focused. I'm locked out. You know, you can't be, you know, thinking about much of anything else. Right?
I think it's interesting because I've been thinking about this in depth since I started like writing this all together in terms of like analysis, and I was thinking like, well, how does that relate to me? And like the thing that I find, because I do feel this, I very much feel like when I'm locked into the moment, the world kind of tunes out in a very freeing way, because I'm one of those people that always needs to be busy, and always needs to be doing things, and that does build up to where you live a life that is incredibly fast paced. And there's something
Yes.
about there's something about this hobby which just rejects that. Just says no. If you do this fast, you won't do it in a way that you're going to get the best results. You need to concentrate. You need to take your time. And I was thinking, I wonder why. Like, if that's a core reason why I don't like sketching so much, because I it kind of it puts me into that brain set of, oh, if I'm sketching I have to be quick, I have to move the brush fast, even though you don't, like this is just how my brain interprets it. And instead, like, as opposed to, oh, I'll just get paint on all parts of the piece, I said no, I'm just going to focus on this one area, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to concentrate in on this tiny bit. And I wonder if that's then a part of it for some. Even like your methods of painting are based off of the mental state that you have coming into it and what you want to get out of it.
I think so. Yeah, I
Because
think so.
I mean, we're both non-sketchers, um, and both almost trying to quiet this idea of busyness. So I'd be very interested to speak to someone like Lucas or a very sketch-heavy person like Colin in terms of like where they find um, that value. Um, I do want to pick up on something you said earlier though about like this is the thing that gets squeezed out, and so is there a risk that the hobby carries so much weight in coping for people? Like, what do you do when
Think
that
so.
cope? Yeah, like
Yeah, I think so. I almost kept on going before for sure. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but it's so as nice as it is, this this hobby you can get lost in and spend so much time on, and you almost get to this semi meditative state or whatnot. Um, it also carries, at least for me, a massive amount of guilt
Mm,
because um, it's not this thing where, oh, I'll just put on my shoes and I'll run for 25 minutes. Then you come home, you take a 10-minute shower, and now you did your hobby. Do that 3, 4 times a week. That's it. That's not quite how it works for me, at least. I never did. Even when I was uh, uh, working a day job, I would probably do 10 to 20 hours a week. And it felt like I needed it when I didn't, which is now a little bit of an issue if you then really need it, because
mm,
you can be in a uh, you know period of your life where you don't really need it, where things are going great. You just moved into your new apartment, or you just found a new girlfriend, or your job is good and you had the promotion, sun is shining, friends are calling, all these things that are like, ooh, everything is just nice, or at least some things are nice. Then of course you don't need it too much. And I've said this many times before. Usually it would kind of um, fall on top of the season for me, right? So when the weather changed, I was like, "Ooh, more energy, and I'm feeling happier, and I don't need this so much. So maybe I should go outside. Maybe I should call a friend. Maybe I should, sit in a beer garden and shoot some shit, and th- things kind of lightening up, qu- quite literally, even
mm,
because of the weather changing. Then I didn't need it too much. But then when you needed it, you kind of needed it, really needed it, because it became a kind of like a coping mechanism. And how then do you explain that to a partner or some family or to your boss saying, well, I can't do overtime because I need to get out of here?
mm.
Oh, for what?
I pay
Uh,
my goddamn minis.
exactly. So it's like suddenly it can have this weight of yeah, I think it's almost guilt that you're stealing away time from other things that you could be, and it's not even that you could be using better, but really you couldn't, right? Because it's like it's almost the same as, well, it doesn't make any sense to try and write that essay in the middle of the night when you're the most tired, because it will be a shit essay, right? You don't do good work if you're not doing good. And it's the same with other things where, well, you feel like you should not be sat there painting a thing. But also, if you're going to be, a sour ass because you're stressed and you're whatnot, then maybe don't go to that birthday. Maybe, you know, so yeah, it can be a thing that
I think the
weighs.
first step is like acknowledging it in some ways. Like if you know it's a
Yeah, I think so.
vital coping mechanism for you, you can structure your kind of life such that you can try and make time for it. But you have to understand that when you're in a scenario where like life is really kicking your ass, you're going to have to really batten down the hatches if you don't have an outlet. If you can't find an hour, 2 hours, or longer to try and get that relief, and you're going to find yourself in quite a tricky spiral,
Yes.
which is quite critical. And I guess like with that is also trying to manage like the fine line between healthy escape, like hey, I'm going to go paint
Mm,
for a bit, and avoidance, and hey, this is just some shit that I actually need to deal with, but I'm just not going to because I'm just going to throw myself into this plastic world for a little bit. So it's worth interrogating those, and like we're not just to be clear to the audience, we're not here to be like, and we shall solve all these problems. We are not
no,
mental
no, no,
health
no. We
experts.
we cannot.
We cannot. But it is. I think it's interesting when you look at the thematic elements and what people pull out from that. It struck me. We started the Share Your Wins channel in the Discord, which was like a replacement for the Hall of Heroes, and the idea was like hey, competition wins. Like when you're proud of something, just put it in here and we'll give you like a cheer you on. And it was very like kept intentionally loosey goosey so people could put whatever. And what's really struck me since we started that is how much of the wins are these very small things that clearly mean a lot to people. Like, hey, I've
Yeah,
not
and
been
some of
painting
it
for three
not even.
weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Some of it isn't even winning anything with a meaning. It's just like, hey, I took a shower. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
good win.
It
Yeah,
is a good
delivered.
win. And people will
Yeah,
unironically cheer it on because sometimes
of
like
course. Yeah,
yeah, picking up looking at a figure can sometimes be a win, and understanding that is quite critical. So yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge, but also to see like the downsides that come with it. And um, speaking of downsides, the second theme is perhaps one that will resonate with a lot of people, and that's that comparison is the thief of joy. Um, if painting is the medicine, comparison is the most common side effect. This was the most frequently named struggle in the whole dataset. People described feeling bombarded and inferior on social media, watching painters who started after them race ahead, and seeing critique of other people's work only to spot the same faults in their own. But the community also handed us a toolkit, strategies people have actually found to work. Compare yourself only to your own older work. Go back to old models for what one person called regular visual proof of development. Step away from social media entirely unless you have something specific to share. And this one's counterintuitive. One respondent found they were happier and more productive when they don't post work in progress at all, which cuts against everything that the algorithm tells us to do. And the line that should be printed on the inside of every wet palette, just because someone else does well doesn't mean you did badly.
Yeah, that's my favorite quote. I think it really is such an important thing to remember that this is not zero sum at all.
Mm.
Not at all. If someone did good, another one didn't have to do bad. It's so important to remember. And I think we've mentioned it a fair few times now in recent m- podcasts and whatnot. But I want for everyone to remember that the major thing that I've taken from the past couple of competitions was that any model in the cabinet could be someone's favorite. And it probably will be. And it genuinely, it probably will be. Even though maybe I'm looking for the pieces that I compete against more closely in a competition, and like in a technical sense and all of these things, the pieces that I'm looking at is not necessarily other people's favorite. It just isn't, because people have different kind of values that they put on things. It's not that, of course, most people can appreciate, a stunning model if it's stunning, of course, but someone might appreciate the grittiness of something, or the story, or the whatnot. Like, everything can be attributed value, right? So it's like, it's just an important thing to remember that just because you don't think it looks as clean or as tight or as neat or as colorful or as artistic or whatever your parameter is, it's not necessarily a bad thing that you did. It could very well be someone's favorite that day.
Do you are you one of those people that can like happily throw yourself into Instagram and just like look at everything and never feel that comparison effect? Like this is an interesting one for me because I think for many people, yours is the kind of work that people might stumble upon and think like, "Shit, why does my non-met look like that?" or something like that. But is this
Mm.
something that you yourself feel?
So not really, I think. So I don't know what it is or why, uh, but I never felt particularly down on, like, and I will say my work didn't always look like that. You can, yeah. I
Go
mean,
back, go look.
scrolling back, it didn't always look like that. And I started. Remember, I started Instagram quite late. I mean, maybe 4 years into my painting even. And scrolling back through my minis, it definitely didn't always look like that. But I think even from the beginning, I think it's because I've always been mindful that it doesn't matter where I step my foot, there will be someone better. I've never ever tried to be the best at anything, like the very best at anything, and I probably won't ever, which is just fine for me. I don't mind that. I want to be good. So my dad once said to me, um, "When you stop striving to be the best, you stop being good. You probably won't be the best, but you should strive for it to make sure that you continue being good, right?" And I've kind of kept that with me in terms of I know that I know that even when I put my very most effort, someone else will outgrind me. Someone else will out talent me. Someone else would like that. That's just how it is. And it means that for me, Instagram, I used Pinterest so much, so much. I stopped using it the past few years, but in the beginning, I used that. I didn't even really use Instagram because I was like, it's for the kids and the bikini models. Um, so so I was like, So I never really got onto Instagrams and Snapchats and TikToks and stuff like that. And then a lot of people said, "Well, but it's actually where people post their minis, so maybe you should get into it a little bit." So I finally did, but not in the beginning. I used Pinterest so much, and I always was like, "Well, I needed inspiration somewhere." Um, and I almost always found that if I could be inspired by something better or what I perceived as better than what I could do, then I would have something to strive for. But I would also seek inspiration, not always like I don't know, 100 steps better, but maybe 3, 4, 5 steps, something that felt maybe out of reach, but not super far. So I would have kind of like 2 levels, one where it was like Richard Gray's Mortarion, and I was looking and thinking, "Okay, well,
That's a
yep,
thing.
that's wild." Uh, I don't think I'm reaching that, but it is something to set yourself in a frame of mind where, whoa, anything really is possible, right? But I would also find inspiration from people that were maybe a little bit closer to what I could do even at the time. Um, which also translated to the YouTube videos I used to watch and all of that. So I kind of had 2 levels where one was a little bit closer, so it felt like I was chasing, almost like the dogs on the track with the mechanical rabbit. And you were, like, chasing right after something close instead of being like, "Oh, okay, I wanna be Usain Bolt," and it's like, "Well, but then stop because you won't." Yeah, so I think yeah, to me, it was never crushing. It was always knowing that I'm intentionally seeking this out, and there is a purpose to
Hmm.
it. There is a reason why I do it, but also keep in mind that for a while I didn't at all. I was like a little bit on Pinterest, and I was watching Duncan Rhodes on YouTube, and uh, uh, you know that was kind of Dr. Faust. I used to watch so much Dr. Faust.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
old
yeah, yeah,
school. Still slamming them out.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I've I can't say I've found this too much. I definitely did earlier on, um, but I think as I got more into the hobby, I kind of understood that I started really looking at the pictures that were posted because like my instinct is always like I just love minis. I just like when you see a mini, I'm like, hey, this is great. I love looking at it. And like going to my first few competitions was really eye opening because it was like, oh, here's the piece how I remember seeing it on Instagram, and here's the piece in my hand, and these are not
Oh,
the same. Like maybe the difference isn't massive. They're just not the same. Like for one, you appreciate scale and things like that. And so I think a few times I was like, I've kind of felt this like how the hell has this been done? Um, and then it can kind of like if you're in the right mindset, it can become like an interesting puzzle to try and work it out. Or it can just be something like in this hobby, you can ask folks. Like, no one's on about it. You can be like, hey, just how did you do? And you'll probably get an answer. Like, even if the answer is like, it took ages and it was difficult, you at least get a more human sense as opposed to like the perception when you're looking on Instagram, I think sometimes, is that everyone's doing this and they're doing this in this effortless way and they're just slapping this stuff out and they're never worried about, they're never struggling with mental health. They're never sitting at the desk wondering what the hell they're going to pay. And actually those feelings are universal.
Yeah, I have. So the two things. One thing is, I wanted to ask you, do you find in your day-to-day life that you compare yourself to other people much?
In some ways,
Mhm.
because I guess I'm a little bit of the. I really like that thing you said about like, the moment you stop trying to be the best is the moment you stop being good. I'm really driven to be very good at stuff. Like I don't want to be bad at stuff. My favorite feeling in the world is starting bad at something and getting better at it and trying to continue that. Like it's like the reason I got so obsessed into chess is because you start and you're just awful. And then
And
it's like,
also they put a number on it.
and they put a number on it. They give you a number to be like, hey, you just move up this ELO and then you'll know if you're good or not. And so I find that, and my comparisons are there, but I don't find them a source of negative emotion. They're often a source of like inspirational push. So for example, like when you were over for MPO and I'm looking at your display and like there's an ethereal sharpness to it. And I can innately contrast like your sharpness with my sharpness and yours is sharper. So then it becomes a case of, wow, how the hell do you do that? How the hell do you emulate that? Not you've done that and I haven't, therefore I never will. Um, I think a big part of that helps in like I've done it so many times in terms of starting badly and getting better that you don't have to view anything as out of your skill set entirely. There are other factors though. Like this is so the one thing I heard at Spiel more than anything else is I really want to do an Albert. I want to sit down and paint one model for 6 months. And loads of people said that, and none of them have done it because to do that requires something more than just wanting to do it. And so that's the way I approach it. Like I am fundamentally always comparing myself to others, but hopefully in a way that drives me, not negatively affects me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I wonder if that is some of it because, um, well, if we're being real, a lot of people go through their in entire lives in kind of never really becoming good at anything. They just live medium lives.
Yeah.
Is
That's what an
that
average is. Like, yeah, you need a lot
yeah,
of people on the bell curve to make it work.
and let's be real. Most people never will and never do excel in anything. And if you never did or even never felt, "Oh, I'm quite good at this," compared to, let's say, your job. Your review is always, "Yeah, you're a stable medium worker. Here's your 2% or whatever." So you were never the one, you know, to excel at your job. You were never the one picked first when it was time to, play soccer. You were like you were never the best or even up top towards the best at anything. Then I can see why it feels maybe a little bit crushing to see all these people that are clearly better than you. And we need to remember that um, the way that the social like the socials work is that if something looks really good or really crazy or really wild or really fun or really, whatever, well, people will probably put a like on it. And the algorithm will probably notice that and say, "Ooh, let's show it to more people. They probably like this thing then." S- So you're seeing the top 5% or whatever. That's what's on your feed. So now you are thinking, well, I'm not particularly good at this thing. Like I'm not excelling wildly. And also everything that is pushed towards me will be better than me. Of course it will be because the algorithm says, okay, 2,000 likes already. Let's push it towards this person. Right? So I can see why it can be weighing, right? When you haven't had, like you say, like lots of times the feeling of, oh, I wasn't good at this thing, but now I am actually quite good at it, right? If you've never had that, because a lot of people will never, and it's nothing bad about that. I mean, of course not. Like that's a normal life.
Yeah. And I think it's probably one of those scenarios where if you, because there'll be some people for whom they'll think that and feel that, and then they'll have stuff, and it won't really bother them. But there'll be some for whom it is very negative, and that is a good, like, a good watchword to be like, you can just leave that environment. You don't have to be on Instagram. Like,
No.
no one, like, there is no one over your head being like, look, if you don't post this week, everyone's going to hate you. Like, it's just not, it's, I know some people feel that need, like they have to post. Um, and it's just, it seems like the most important thing in the world, and it's just not. It's just, it is the trap that a lot of these social media companies instill in us because that's what benefits them, but it is a loop that you can't escape of. I want to, I guess it's kind of linked. I want to talk about this whip thing because you and I are very different in this regard. You will share every whip going, and I never do. Why do you think that's different? So different between us? Because I know where I don't share whips,
um,
but I guess why are you just like, hey, this is what I'm working on. What do you think?
I think there. Um, I think there are two components for me. Um, One is, of course, there's like the instant gratification of showing something and people being like, "Wow, that looks good."
Yeah,
Um, and I, of course, also feel that. I'm human like everyone else.
good honesty. I like
So
it.
yeah, so lots of thumbs up, and I'm like, "Oh, that felt great." Um, so of course I want to do it more, but well, and then there is the added thing where sometimes it's almost like a whip is more impressive or more like you see a black canvas and then you see because of the way that I paint, I don't
Mm,
sketch. So
yeah,
you see one area of the model, it could be face and chest or whatever, and it's almost like completely rendered. So it looks almost like a little bit of magic because it's like, oh, okay, everything is like base coated or like brown or whatever is your or even black is your base coat, and then you have something painted, so it looks a little bit more,
fucking cool transition of like the.
yeah, a little bit more magical and a little bit, yeah, almost more impressive than
Mm,
if you just present a finished model. It can be very impressive, but it doesn't really give you any frame of reference, I guess. It's just, okay, it is super painted. Wow, it looks good. That's it. But you don't have any. Whereas on the whip, you see also this is what it came from. This is an area that is completely unpainted. This is one where maybe a couple of brush strokes and on the base coat, and this is like two areas that are just almost completely done. So that's one of the things because I enjoy seeing that too. Um, and I think for me, there is also something in the I like to show more of the process. I like to show I used to do 2 times a week almost on the dot because it was a way to also show that this is happening continuously. It's not because let's say I'm quiet for 2 months. I don't post a single thing. Then 2 months later, I post a photo. Finished model, looks banging, everyone is clapping, and assuming it took me 10 minutes to do. It didn't. It took me 2 months, right? So it's almost like keeping it a little bit honest when you show, okay, this week this and this was done. This week this and this was done. Because otherwise it's almost like you can forget the road there. And I think this is a real struggle because um the environments that people have for painting, not the same at all. Not like some people get 10 minutes a night if they're lucky. Some people get 3 hours a day or only 3 hours if they're unlucky. Right? Some people just have a lot of time. They maybe don't have too many other obligations, or they have like this is their main priority. Okay, well that's fine, but it's just, and then it's super unfair to compare someone who has 10 minutes every other night. You know, finally the kids are not screaming; they're asleep, and the wife
Hurry, hurry,
brushing,
hurry, hurry.
yeah, brushing your teeth and okay, well, before she'll be angry with me, I can quickly sit down and just paint a little bit, and you're almost like stress painting it, and then, oh, okay, she's done. Well, my time, yeah, time is up. So it's like I, I realized that it is like that for some people, right? It is, and comparing um your busy 9 to 5 plus plus um 2 kids and a wife, family who wants to see you in the weekends, some friends who wanna, you know, chat and hang out once in a while with me who can do it as part of their job, or Albert who can, do his day job and then go home and just focus on that. It's not really
Full
fair.
sicko mode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not really fair, right?
Hmm.
So I think that is one of the reasons for me. I've done it a little bit less lately. Try to maybe not post all the time and maybe not be as much in people's faces. And it's not, I'm trying it out. I don't know if I feel better or worse. I don't think I feel much better or much worse, um, like personally. And if it's, yeah, and I don't know if people like it better or worse, but I'm trying it a little. So I'm trying to do it a little bit less.
Yeah. And I guess like mine, as the counter to your view, like mine is,
Yeah.
I talked earlier about like this sense of like why I don't sketch is this sense of rushing, and that's what I noticed with whips is when there was a time when I posted whips. You can go back in my Instagram feed and you'll see me posting whips and like posting whips on Discord and things like that. And like you get, like you say, you get that little endorphin bump. You get those good
Absolutely.
vibes. But I was rushing because the session had to end with something that needed a whip. Something that was worthy of being taken as a whip photo. And like, it's just not. Then I'm going against why I'm in the hobby, and so it's just like I'm just going to cut this out. Like it just, I understand that the endorphins feel good, but I would rather feel calmer painting and like taking my time and not feeling like we have to rely on that. And like it felt uncomfortable initially, and now it feels super comfortable. Like it's still strange to me. Like I have 2 finished projects. I've not even posted them to Instagram. Like they just
Mm.
sat, and that's nice. It's just a good feeling because it kind of reinforces as well. Like, hey, this hobby's for me. At the end of the day, like I'll talk through stuff. I'll get feedback on pieces. I'll do all of that, but ultimately, it's for me, and I can make my own decisions during the painting. I don't feel like I post a picture and someone's like, "Oh, I've got a great idea for you." It's like, "Great, that's wonderful." Maybe if it's like a part of a feedback at the end of a project, I'll hear it, but I have to make all these decisions to at least get to a finished state initially. So it's kind of, I think what became the flashpoint for me, and maybe what this other respondent's talking about is understanding like what you want out of them can be just as destructive as it can be beneficial. And if that's the case, then it's okay just to just not engage. Like just like the whole thing. Like
Mm.
if it's bad for you, you can just stop it.
There is another important thing, really important. It only takes one negative comment
Yeah.
to make it all topple over. It only takes one. How many YouTube videos have we done where people have praised it and watched it and liked it and all of that, and it takes one comment and you're like, "Fuck, I did
Yeah.
bad." Right?
Yeah. And you've coached me through this.
Yeah, I think it's a confidence thing now for me, right? Where because doing it for a while and becoming better and better and having so many people tell you that you are really good, Of course, at some point, the positive will outweigh, but you need a sea of positivity and only one drop of negativity, right? So it's like it's so little. And let's say you are not me.
I am not you, can confirm.
Eh, well, yeah, or like, let's say you're a medium or upcoming or whatever. So you're not professional in any way. You're just enjoying your painting and you want to share it with people, and you accidentally go against, you know, your better judgment, and you put it on Reddit, and it takes one comment of someone anonymous saying, "Oh, but I don't like the blue." And now suddenly the kick you thought you would have from people liking it and upvoting it and all of that turned into, "I hate everything about this. Yeah, I wasn't good enough. I knew this would happen." And then it for sure isn't worth it, right? So there is something to keep in mind, that if you are easily like, or maybe not easily, but a normal amount, I want to say, because I think I think it's like this for most people. I think most people feel like this. And if you are one of the people that feel, you know, affected by negativity quite easily or quite quickly, well, then social media probably isn't the best. Then it is better to post it within a close Discord, or in your group chat, or for Christ's sake, send it to your mom so she can say, "Oh, good job," or whatever. I did a lot in the beginning, and I was a grown man. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I don't. It's just, yeah, it is fascinating to me. It is knowing like where the limits are, and I want to move on to our next theme because it's
yeah, yeah.
related, which is imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome was named by name in at least 6 responses. It showed up at every level. People afraid to share work in a community that includes world-class painters, people convinced that early competition successes were flukes, and one response captured a uniquely painful double bind, feeling like an imposter while simultaneously worrying that assuming your work is good enough to share makes you arrogant in some way. Someone who was losing both ways. The antidotes that people described were refreshingly practical. Ask lots of questions, deliberately pick projects that push your weak areas so improvement is undeniable. And this came up more than once. Talk to the painters that you idolize, because it turns out that your goats have the exact same doubts. Once you learn that, the voice in your head gets a couple of notches quieter. Have you ever felt imposter syndrome, Anna?
Yes, all the time. I feel it still. Right now, when I'm sat here, I feel it every day on everything I paint. I have never ever not felt it. I can cope with it. It's not like it doesn't crush me, or, but I think also as a person, I would rather downplay a little bit, and then do better than I hoped or said or thought,
Hmm.
than I would the other way around. With everything in life, not only painting, but everything. And I think some of it is for sure culture. In Denmark, we have janteloven, which is the law of Jante, and it means you should not be hyping yourself up. You should not be. It's just a way of life. But it's a real thing. You can look it up. But it's kind of this social law of, don't say you're the best. Don't say you're the man. Don't say you're the shit, right? Because someone is better for sure. And someday you will be all hyped and all high and mighty, and then that guy is there, and the fall will feel horrible, so horrible, right? Because the higher you fly, of course, the harder you hit the ground. So it's like, so it is a way of life, but it's not to say, yeah, when someone messages and says, "Oh, I was so inspired. I love it. You're my favorite," or "You posted this thing and it was my favorite this scroll, or this month, or this year, or this forever, or whatever it is." I'm still not really believing it. Of course, the more people say it, the more it becomes something that you, I guess, live and feel. But it's not that I don't know. I feel it every day, and I doubt all my work. I mean, you should know that
Can
both in
confirm.
yeah, so much of it where I'm like, yeah, but it's not smooth enough, or it's not colorful enough, or I haven't thought enough about this, or of course it's a driving factor too. In terms of if you're always doubting, you're always trying to push a little better and try to b- beat that, you know, loss you think is on the horizon. So of course it can be a driving factor, but all in all, I think it's probably a net negative. At least for me, it probably is. With some things, it for sure is helping, pushing on and whatnot. But y- you know how much I hated that dwarf.
I am
Yeah,
aware. Yeah.
yeah,
And
and
one of the few times I've seen you agonize over a project.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, hated it so much. And most people that I've shown it to, or well, basically everyone who's I've
Loves it.
shown it to, love it, right? But doubting and doubting and doubting, not liking what you did on it, not thinking it's good enough, thinking you should have done more or you should have done less or you should have done different or whatever. Yeah, it's always in the back of your mind, and I
I th-
think most of us have that.
yeah. And I think for me, certainly, I think a bit of it is healthy. I do
Yes, I
honestly
think some of
believe,
it. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
like it's this like stay humble mentality, like that I do think is beneficial. It's when it becomes, it's when that voice, like I think so much, and this is probably a through line for so many of like the themes here is like, yeah, it can be beneficial, but it can then tip over if it becomes self-destructive. If the imposter syndrome voice is overwhelming. I think I struggled the most with it when we first started the Talking Miniature series with other artists,
uh,
because I was very much like, oh, what are you new to this? Like, you're new to this hobby. Like, you can barely put a bass scale on. What are you doing talking to these people? And the thing that kind of quite quickly snapped me out of that was you listen to those conversations, and these are these are the people that we would all hold as in the top of the hobby, and pretty much all of them feels it to some degree. No one,
yeah,
you've said this so many times. Whenever we've approached someone to be on those interviews, the most common response is, "You want to hear from me?
yeah.
You
It is.
sure?"
How wild is that? If you scroll through the artists that we have, the list of artists that we've had on,
Yeah,
well, none of them have been like, yeah, of course, I can lend an hour to you guys. No, all of them have been like, "Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. So happy." Or, "Do you really want to? I don't know if I can offer anything." It's like, "But you can. I guarantee
yeah,
it.
we think you
You
can.
really can." Yeah.
um, and it is like, I do think it's one of those things that if we accept that everyone has it, it's like the only thing that we have left is how we deal with it. That is it. And
Yeah, I agree.
I wonder, like, I guess like when we first started things, like people not feeling confident to share their work in our community, for example, and like we have tried so hard to kind of make it like, no, post the mini. And people will love the mini. Like, I guarantee you, people will love the mini. Post the mini. It's why on the challenges we say something good about every piece, because there is something good to be
Yes, of
said
course.
about every piece.
Yeah.
And so it is probably one of those things that is, if you are able to wrap yourself in community, it can help, because you can ask those questions like, hey, I'm not feeling good enough to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not feeling good enough to do. And it doesn't matter who you are. Like, you and I both know Golden Demon winners who are like, that was a fluke. It's like, it's not.
He
It's
sat here.
not.
I know that guy. He's me.
Yeah, yeah. It's not. I understand why you think that way, but it's not. And you are allowed, like, even though, a little bit of self doubt is beneficial, you're also allowed to accept your wins and say, yeah, I did good
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um,
Yeah, and I think I don't know, man, it's like I think some of it is also keep in mind that you you fit in regardless. Because it's not like imagine that because um, I like cars and you like cars. Now we can't talk because your car is not the same color as mine. It's like, well, but we're all in this, and it doesn't really matter. Which I think this is why I like the thing Dave said so much about the MPO gallery was that, well, he just loves every mini. Sure, some of them are maybe more his favorite than others, but it's not to say that he doesn't love the others. He loves all of them. He wants to see all of them, right? And it is true that you can sometimes feel like, oh, I shouldn't enter this thing. I'm not good enough. I won't win anyways. Yeah, well, but if everyone thought that, only Albert would be there in the end because he knows he's winning. Well, or he knows he's close to it. Like the five best people in the world would be there, and no one else would be competing. And it's like, r- imagine that. Imagine it was the same for the World Cup. Why would we go? We won't win it. Yeah, but being on the stage is something too, right? So it's like, yeah, you should go there. You should be excited. You should be happy with the thing you painted. Maybe you can see some things that are improvable.
Yeah. And like it cannot be repeated enough. It exists at the top of the Hobbit. Like, I mean, you just mentioned Albert, who like
Yeah.
people like
Yeah.
howled as the goat, like the absolute best to do it. And you see him at Essen when we're at the awards show, and he is not like he is riddled with doubt in that moment because
Yeah, of course.
like it's the natural thing. It's not. Maybe this is the best bridge to talk about the next thing, which is competition. Um,
Yeah.
So competition painting got its own cluster of responses, and they were some
Yeah.
of the most raw. One painter described what they called acceptance through success, the false belief that you'll finally be enough once you win. Golden Demon looms especially large here. It becomes the ceiling you feel you must break through, and the pressure that creates is common, rarely discussed, and in their own words, completely unhealthy. Others echoed it from different angles, fear of even entering Golden Demon because the bar is so high that disappointment is statistically far more likely than pride, the grind of losing repeatedly, conflicting judge feedback, watching pieces win that you honestly think are weaker than yours. And then there is the genuinely dark side. One respondent described receiving a troll message after their first big win, and it wrecked their confidence, and worse, it created an unhealthy need to win again, to prove something both to themselves and to a stranger. That's a competition problem and a community problem rolled into one. The healthier frames people offered, judges are just people. Judging is inherently subjective and mistakes happen. Internalizing that makes losses easier to swallow. One person said they've never looked at someone else's pieces and wondered how it would place, only ever thought, damn, I want to do that, or I need that on my shelf. And one response suggested borrowing from sport, thinking in terms of form, training, and performance, where loss is a data point, not a verdict. Competition is such a flashpoint for this, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely like a double-edged sword. It will bring tons of joy, but it can definitely cut you. No doubt about it. And I think this is why, we both realize that it isn't for everyone. And probably why we try so hard to make it so that we can create an environment where people can try it, and if they tried it and found it that's just not for me, then just opt out. But we at least want to have the platform or the stepping stone where you can kind of step on without it feeling too daunting and too, you know isolating and too, you know unwelcoming, I guess, is the best way to say.
Mm.
And then, you know, some stick around, and of course it's just as viable to be, yeah, you know what, competition is just not for me at all.
Yeah. Because I think the first time I really faced into like bad vibes in the hobby was when I first got like didn't do well in a competition, which was like 2023. It was the first MPO online that I'd entered, and I'd only been in the hobby for like kind of 6 months at that point, and I thought I was really improving. I thought I was getting so good, and like I'd entered these pieces that I thought were like really good for me, like my best work ever, and then they didn't take anything, and it was the first time it was like the full gut punch of like, oh, you had expectations, and now you get nothing, and that has stayed with me. Like even if like since then I think like largely I've been successful in the competitions that I've entered, like it is it is always there as a reminder. This can break real badly. You can be left feeling that your work is not valuable, even though it hasn't changed the work at all, and it hasn't changed how other people think about it, etc. Like because like competition for you is like a still like you relatively new for you, even though like you've been painting for quite a while.
Yeah, it is new, I think. Well, competition isn't new, but it is for painting.
Mm,
And I think I'm lucky in the sense that I took so many of the things through the I don't know, I had how many 5, 6 years of competitive like Magic the Gathering play where those things surrounding competition were things I could take with me almost one for one. Um, which I think made it a fair bit easier, even though the competitions don't run the same at all. And well, it's also a different subject, of course. Um, but there is a little bit of the element of randomness, because while you're not rolling the dice or drawing the cards or whatever, you're still banking on someone else liking your piece better than something that could be kind of just as good, right?
mm.
I mean, I watched the first Squidmarsh show yesterday, and I was thinking, "Ooh, I'm happy I'm not judging this because how do you even judge it? How do you even all of this is on time, so it can't be you can't judge it on perfection really. So now you're basically only judging on creativity. Oh, how do you do that? How do you do
Yeah.
that? That's the most subjective part, right? So it's like, and that's the thing with competition. You're banking on doing good with something that just might not be the judge's cup of tea. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you're quote unquote lucky, or I don't want to say lucky because it's more fortunate, I guess, that your thing just resonated. Yes, they loved it, and then it gets awarded. Um, I think I think I was exceptionally fortunate that I stepped onto the scene and did well from the beginning, which means I didn't have the initial grind of doing not good, not good, not good, not good, a little better, not good, a little better, a little better, a little bit. Oh, better, 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 much better, not so good, much better. Oh, I got there, which is the normal trajectory for people that it gets a little bit better and then they have like these dips in between. Um, I, I kind of didn't too much. Um, and I think because of that, I I got to kind of accomplish the thing I wanted quickly so I could focus on other things after. Because these days I'm super mindful that I say these days, like I started in 2024,
Decades
right?
later.
Yeah, but the past few competitions, I mean, we've been to a fair few competitions, right? Both online and in person. And the past few ones I've been super mindful that well, I'm actually not there to compete. Well, I am too, but I'm more there to hang out with people because that's the thing I love. It's the sole reason I played Magic because I didn't win shit when I was playing cards. I mean, a little bit here and there, but I was an okay player, never great, and I was never exceptionally lucky, unfortunately. So
You were in the bell
I did,
curve. You were just there.
yeah, I didn't even have that either. So I spent a lot of money traveling and hotels, and but really it was a getaway to, you know, have fun with the lads and have some drinks and talk about, because it gives you an anchor. It gives you something to talk about. It gives you, oh, did you see that model? Or hey, did you see that deck? Or did you see whatever it is, right? So now it's no different than going with a couple of friends and I don't know, watching Formula One. You're there to see a thing, to be together uh, in something that you can talk about, that you can enjoy, that you can, so you have this anchor. For me these days, it's competition, right? That's why I did it in the first place at all.
And there's, I really get what the person said about like if you if you like you'll finally be enough once you win. You'll find like if you just win this thing, then you'll have made it, which is like ignorance, and
Well,
then
you
you'll
won't.
yeah,
Well, not like
the
that.
next thing will become. I mean,
Of course.
I always think. I mean, like such a weird pull. I always think of Tyson Fury. Like had the biggest mental breakdown when he became heavyweight champion of the world. Like success is not like a sure path to feeling content. In fact, they're often in conflict. Um, I want to talk about this, like the responsibility of the community thing, like the point where someone found someone who'd won something and sent them a shitty message, and you know
Yeah.
we this always is a flashpoint around Golden Demon where you know you see the streams of comments like, "Oh, everyone, all the winners look the same," and things like that. Like, does the community need to be kinder? I mean, I feel like kind of Anna answers its own question, but how do we combat that almost?
Mm, needs to is probably a little much. Could it be kinder? Yes, it could. Of course. I mean, but it's also a matter of like at some point it becomes only patting on the backs and, you know, it, and I don't think it needs that specifically. So I don't know if I wish it was very different really. I think I think I probably personally wish that it was less um I don't know, like targeted, or less like, oh, so these specific pieces that won this thing that people are probably really proud of. Yeah, but they look like, I, I don't enjoy that too much. And it's also why this go around I did a little bit of pushing back online, because I think the tone could be different. I'm not saying that that you can't say these things, but I think it can be framed in a different way. And the thing that I probably dislike the most is that more often than not, the person making the comment or the video or the whatever it is, usually they aren't intending it as like they, yeah, this is bad or this is whatever. But you will quickly have tons of people jumping that wagon and being like, yes, I agree, it's bad, it's boring, it's this and this and that and that. And it's almost like the initial message, or the whatever was tried to be conveyed in the beginning, becomes this abomination of a thousand voices saying, yeah, this is bad, even when it wasn't really intended. So I wish that sometimes the like statements or comments, if they can stand alone, it would maybe be easier to, oh, okay, well, this person thinks this or whatnot. But when you suddenly see a sea of voices saying, yeah, actually, I agree. Oh, it's bad. It's shit. It's this and that. Then it becomes an issue, right? And I don't think there is a fix to it. It's not what I'm saying, and it's not. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I think we could be kinder to each other everywhere in general. Yes, I think the whole world. But I think I don't think that the online community in paint mini painting is much worse. Um, I think it's sometimes a little bit unfortunate that um, lots of people only see the online version because the real life version is very different.
Yeah. Colin
You won't
Demon
have 10.
in like it's the night and day. The vibes are entirely different.
It's not. You can walk the cabinets and someone saying, "Oh, look how boring that red
Look
Space
how
Marine
boy,
captain
yeah,
is."
absolute
Of course,
garbage of that Space
of course,
Marines.
it can happen, but I'm just saying that you won't have 10 or 20 or 50 people all saying, "Oh, I don't like that model. Why
Mm,
did that one win?"
no,
Maybe someone is thinking it, but the majority of voices definitely won't be that. And of course, if you click a video who is, I don't know, shitting on, maybe not even shitting, but being, critiquing something, of course, most of the voices will be echoing it because I think online we tend to, if we don't agree, we don't push back too much. We're just like, okay, well, whatever, and then move on. Which means, of course, it becomes this echo chamber kind of thing, and then it looks like, oh, everyone thinks that
yeah,
Grimdark is bad.
yeah,
Damn. Okay, well, I guess I'm wrong for doing it or liking it or whatever.
yeah. It's like no, it's
Yeah, it's just this specific place where this was the topic of someone saying they didn't like it. Of course, all the supporters of that statement will be saying, "Yeah, I agree." Yeah.
it is like it's one of those. It's probably the one of the few areas where I know for some people, like there are some people out there like I'm just never doing competition. I'm like, yep, fine, good for you.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like
We
there's
have
not,
them in our own community.
yeah, you are not lesser in the community
No,
because of
no.
it. Like you are very much like still a part. Isolation. Next topic. Um, the paradox at the heart of the hobby is that it's fundamentally solitary. You sit at a desk alone for hours. Several people told us that they noticed that solitude leaking into the rest of their lives. One described being naturally introverted and realizing the hobby was making them more so until they started attending a local club night. Painting with others once a week, they said, has become the highlight of their week, and notably, when they're there, they stop caring about painting and to their usual standard. The connection is the point. One response described a local scene that's small, cliquey, and isolating, and the genuine ache of seeing other people's meetup photos, knowing it's not what their hobby looks like. Online community helps enormously, they said, but they can't fully replace being in the room with people. And Discord came up time and time again as a lifeline, in one case, literally. One person spent months living through a spouse's terrifying medical crisis and told us that alongside painting to switch their mind off, they spent hours just chatting in the community, not about their problems, just talking. Any hour of the day, there was a friendly person there. They told us that it was huge and that they're grateful for it. The mental health and well-being channel that we run got a specific shout out as one of the best things that we've added, and that's certainly something that I'd echo.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah,
Is
completely.
is community the only combat to isolation?
Hmm. Good question. I think it depends. So I'll echo. I actually started the whole Discord journey um due to exactly the same issue. I kind of found that um I was probably getting more introverted,
Yeah.
like doing my day job, getting home, escaping into the meetings that I loved, not talking to anyone. Okay, 4 hours later, I would look at my phone. I'd be like, okay, a couple of messages and whatnot. Quick response, go to bed. Same thing next day. And for sure, COVID wasn't a great help. I started in 18, then we had COVID in 19, well, start of 19. For
End of 19, start of 20.
No, it started in COVID. I had COVID in 19, right? I
No.
think so.
COVID's 2020, baby.
We'll see.
Live fact check.
Yeah. Well, but it, we at least had it for a few years, and of course, it made everything a little bit more tricky.
Yeah,
And
the
I think
index
it,
case was the 1st of December 2019. So it affected the world in 20. Sorry.
yeah, um, but I think it was maybe that doing it for me was that now I saw because it was you could still go out,
Mm,
and you could still have your bubble of whatever when things was closed down, but everything was a little bit more strained, and that meant it was basically just s- you know work, hobby, sleep, work, hobby, sleep, and it was, and I can see how it could kind of affect your life still now. Um, And I will say that that online community helped massively for me because now it wasn't because before I would get my social interactions a little bit through the job and for friends and family and these things. But when you then cut that down kind of massively, social interactions they kind of fall away. And well, I think we need them to thrive. Well, most people at least. I mean, I guess you can be wired in a way where I guess it's not, but for most people social interactions are needed to function. Um, and I think online community, sure, but yeah, I would encourage anyone to and everyone to if a local game store has a painting night or gaming night or whatever, even if you're not really participating, you don't have to be bringing all your stuff and all your things and all your. You could just also just go there, browse some products and sit down and have a talk and or even just listen. I think just being a part of something for a bit can also or for a little um can kind of open the door to see if you like it enough to be more.
yeah.
Um
And
and yeah,
you can make it. This is the thing. If it's not there, you can start it. And
you can.
it's a huge, scary leap, and it's not the easiest thing in the world. But if the alternative is never having it, it's worth trying. Like I love our online community. Like some of my
Yeah,
favorite times in the day, like catching up on messages, reading, taking part in stuff. Like just reading the familiar cadence of chat and the nonsense and the fun and like looking at some cool minis. Like it's such a point of joy for me. But even like then, I was like, I would still like something for people that are local to me to come to, which is why like I started the Element Games thing. Um, and like that's a different vibe. People love it, but for different reasons. And it is something that, yeah, to start it is a leap, but it is a leap that you can make if it is something that you want to start. But I think if you are someone who's isolated, it would benefit you to try and find what communities you're comfortable with and try and ingratiate yourself into, because we are fundamentally social creatures.
I would say. Yeah, I guess I will say that it probably isn't for like while we say yeah you can start it, not everyone can.
Yeah, it's fair. Very
And
fair.
in the sense that you might not have the well connections, right? Like where do you even go and where do you even start and or you might not feel like you have the social skills to do it and you might have anxieties or depressive tendencies or whatever something making it so that you can't just do it. So while I think everyone could, not everyone can.
That's fair.
um but there is still like even if you know a couple of people maybe from online, you could be like, oh, would this be a thing? Now you could maybe start it as a group. Now you're already going three people and it can drag people in. Well, it was kind of how we we started the card playing thing. Three people just sat at the store playing. Then a couple of others came and was like, "Hey, are you guys always here? Not always, but often." Okay, well, and then it goes from three to five to seven to 10 to like you know how it goes.
10
So
million.
yeah, well, so it is possible, sure, but it might not be that everyone has the energy for it, of course.
Yeah, it's such a like it's a it's a good reminder as well. Like, yeah, in principle it's easy. In practice, no, sometimes you can't. Like it's a good reminder.
Yeah, and it's also hard work, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work and sometimes money and things like that. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
why
and
I
I think
think
it oh, sorry. I think another thing is, that is quite important is that, um, going to the gaming club or the painting club or the whatever, um, if you are the one organizing it, it becomes very committal. You can't just not go, right? Oh, it's Sunday, every other Sunday, or it's once a month, or it's whatever. Well, now you have to go. And I think for these clubs, it's something that people probably enjoy being a non-committal thing where, well, there will be people there. So I can go if I have the time. But if I don't have the time or the energy or the drive or whatever, I can just not go. And of course, that falls away when it becomes like it's like it's like gaming night. Oh, four people playing, I don't know, bridge or whatever. If one can't go, three people can't really play bridge. So I guess it falls apart. Now I have to go. It's with your tennis partner or your football team or whatever. Whereas this is something less committal, and I think a lot of people have chosen it for it. Like the fact that, oh, Tuesday night is not a great night for me, so or I'm too tired or too stressed or too I don't know, whatever. So I won't do it today, but I can do it tomorrow. Or, hey, I actually have an hour lunch break. I'll just sit and paint a little bit. So it transitions from this very non-committal thing that you can do in your own pace and your own time when whatever, to becoming, oh, this is something with a schedule, right? And of course that makes it a little bit more, well, a little bit trickier as soon as it, yeah, transitions, especially if you're the organizer.
yeah,
Bruce, not if, when you are.
when, yeah. Ah, so that's not my job. I find it easy sometimes, but I like people. I know a lot of people don't like people, but even though they can like one community, you can still like not like people. It's very people are complex, it
Yeah.
turns out, and it is like a critical thing to remember. Um, I will say that sometimes it's worth just like offering to people. A lot of people will not do anything, and like if you notice someone that's a bit isolated, it can just be worth like, hey, do you want to hang out for a bit? Do you want to chat online? Like, it's worth. It's one of those that we can all kind of work as a community to look at and help people. And this is not, I know I keep falling into this trap of trying to provide solutions, whereas this more episode is more like, look, these are the things that we're all dealing with, but it is something I think we should keep in mind.
And also you can be the one to say, oh, if you set this thing up, I would want to come.
Yeah, I'll be there to
That's how we
support.
started Patreon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's any interest, if you want to do this job, I'll support you. Yeah, it can mean the world just hearing something like that, because it's kind of like, oh, I'm not crazy. I am wanting to set something up for a reason. Next theme: the unfinished pile, perfectionism, procrastination, and paralysis. The war with ourselves. This cluster of responses will be familiar to almost everyone. The overwhelming backlog, ADHD focus that starts 10 projects and finishes none, spending hours planning and none painting, because as one person put it with brutal honesty, if I don't start, I can't mess it up and be disappointed in myself. There are more exotic variants too: analysis paralysis from experimenting with too many techniques at once, abandoning models at 90% complete because you've improved during the paint job and now the early work isn't good enough, and hating every finished piece the moment it's done. But again, the community came back with fixes: limit experimentation to one component per model and phone in the rest with tried and true recipes. Don't judge your finished piece for a month or two. One respondent found that they need to distance themselves before they can appreciate their own work. Paint busts when you need a low barrier win, and keep the next project prepped and primed so that when inspiration strikes, you can catch it. One person described inspiration as a wave you can miss if prep gets in the way. This is not something, a backlog is not something I suffer with, but it is something I speak to a lot of the mentees about. I'm sure it's the same with you.
Mhm. It's I don't want to say I struggle with it, maybe mostly because out of sight, out of mind. Uh, I do have some plastic when I'm looking around, but yeah, I don't know that I struggle a little bit with the wanting to start a thing, do a little bit of work on it, not feeling it, wanting to start the next thing, and I have to like really rein myself in. I think we've said it before, even on recording. I think these series have been quite good for me because it means that I actually finish a thing. Otherwise, I would probably not. I think it would be more like 1 in 5 projects that I actually finish. Because getting to the stage that is maybe not that fun is, yeah. But
This idea of perfectionism is interesting because it's the kind of thing that I guess, because like my bias is I really value finished projects. It's why I don't necessarily have like
mm,
if I abandon a project, it's in the prep stage where it's just like I'm prepping this, like what's happening, I don't know, I don't like it, it's just something's not vibing, it's not clicking, whatever. I know the moment I stop painting the figure, I'll probably finish it with a very high likelihood, certainly nowadays. But like the thing I would always tell people is like finish, it's just nice to have it finished, even if it just serves as a moment in time. But like this is probably one of the most individualized things. I know people that have like, I mean, we talked to Roman, he has like hundreds and hundreds of whips. Like I don't think he's fraying, I don't think he's fraying at the edges mentally. It's like only a problem if it is a problem. But I don't like this idea of people thinking like they've improved so they can't finish things, or like they're just building a backlog that sits as a weight in the back of their mind. I think that's where it can be quite tricky.
yeah, I don't know that there is a solution to this at all because it is such an individual thing. Um, I think I think it's just the way that like people are so different. Because um, imagine that you were prepping a model and being excited for it, and you, as you say, well, if I during the prep and the build and whatnot, I'm excited for it, I'll probably finish it. But imagine that you're a person who also kind of hates the way that it looks all the way through, even from the first brush stroke to the last one. It's not you enjoy applying the paint and whatnot, but you're never like happy about what you create looks like. I don't want to say I fully fall into that category, but a little bit. Because I know for a fact that I definitely love my work much better when I've put it on the shelf and I come back a month later.
Mm, massively so for me.
Yeah, massively. And I think actually most people feel that way. So imagine that you have kind of like a long period of painting where you're not enjoying the way that it looks. Now it becomes even more tricky to actually finish it. Finish a thing that already looks bad in your limited time for hobbying that you should be feeling good. All of these things because you chosen it for yourself and you could be playing games or something else that you could find fun a- and somewhat satisfying, right? I think this is where people maybe struggle is that if you're not really in love with the way that it looks or the way that it's developing and you're unsure and the imposter syndrome says you're not good enough, so I'm not sharing it. So you don't even get people saying, "Oh, I really like how you did the axe. You should push on with this one. It looks great," right? So a lot of these things you're missing out and they're kind of compiling and compiling and compiling. And now you have the weight of Well, it's not one sheet of paper on top of it's 1,000 or 100,000 or whatever. Of course you get crushed, right? So I do understand how it can be. Even if I don't feel it massively, I definitely feel some of it, for sure. I've abandoned multiple 100-hour projects that are just it won't finish. I know it, and I've tried to pick them up and been like, I can't get into this.
And it's
It ran
it's
its course.
it's one of the things I've noticed is that power, that feeling is so powerful
Hmm.
when it's just like it's wrong, and you're like, I'm not gonna like the the projects I've been to, my blessed Leviathan Dread, like I just remember like picking that up and it was like it was radioactive. It's like just holding this thing is
Yeah.
transferring some sickness into me. I just need to be, I'm done. We're gone. Um, and then it's, there may be some people that could have put that on a whip shelf and come back to it. I just knew I couldn't. And for me, like as a man that likes conclusions, it's better to say this one is dead, not I might come
Mm.
back to it one day, because I never will.
Yeah, I think that helped for me too, actually. I had well, in the cabinet behind, I had one shelf and it was just
Whip shelf.
whips. And yeah, then I had I don't know, 10, 12 whips on it for more than a year. And every time I took them out, I was like, hey, I actually kind of like what I did here. Maybe I should try and finish it. Put it on the desk, took some paint out, and I'm like, no, there is a reason why I stopped here, actually. So
Yeah.
now you're looking at this thing and being like, no. So you put it back and you say to yourself, well, I'll come back to it.
One day.
At Yeah, well, at the end of the day, I took everything from that shelf, put it in a box, and I think it's in a cabinet in there, you know. And now I can't see it, and I probably will never get back to it. In a year or whatever, I'll give some away, or maybe sell some, or even just throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Legit, something that helps me is to just throw it in the trash.
Hmm. Can't come back from the trash. I really like the
A,
trash for that
a,
reason.
a box of leftover small bits of whatever is a clutter to me. So sometimes I will just take a box. I'll quickly look that it's not a full figure. Oh, it's not, and I'll throw it in the trash. I mean, yes, is it a waste? Sure. Could you have sold it? Sure. Will I ever paint the rest of that Nurgle box? No,
No,
I will
you
never.
should give it to me.
And if and if it's but it's just to say, if it's something that weighs on you, if it's something where it clutters and it feels, oh, I should get more out of this, or I should, maybe you shouldn't though.
Yeah. Maybe it's okay to be
Maybe
done.
maybe you should put it in a on the attic where it's out of sight and it's gone forever, kinda. Maybe not fully in the trash. Maybe you sometimes
Uh,
you can
if I put it in the
want a bit.
garage and it gets covered in spiders, this is good as trash.
It's gone. Yeah, well, but I thought I threw out the rest of the Trugget kit, right? And then a little bit down the line, I was like, "Ooh, actually, that spider from that kit is real nice. I should use it for this project." I probably have it. Nope, I did not. So sometimes it will bite you. But then again,
Clean life is
I ha
hard. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I had 12 months where I wasn't like the rest of the kit wasn't weighing on me, and I had Austin go to, you know, eBay, eBay the spider, send it to me, and I still managed to. Yeah,
And it all came good. Everyone needs
it
an
all came.
Austin, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for sure. But it's just to say that for some people, the medicine is legit. Throw that shit out.
It is for
For
me.
some
I know
people,
it is. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's somewhat to me too.
Um, Related then on the next theme, which is burnout, the post project crash, and protecting the joy. A quieter theme but an important one. What happens after the project? One respondent described a real crash when a piece is finished. If there's nothing to throw themselves into immediately, it hits hard, especially if days of basing or sculpting stand between them and their actual outlet, which is putting paint on minis. Several people talked about protecting the hobby from becoming work. One creative professional refuses all commissions precisely because their day job already drains the fun out of creativity, and they refuse to let painting go the same way. Others said the only sustainable rule is to paint pieces you're genuinely excited about. Forcing yourself through a project you don't love is the express lane to burnout. That crash can hit so goddamn hard.
It hits me almost every time. This one was a tough one after Adepticon.
Mm.
Usually, what I have is um, I will basically towards the end of one project, I'll be thinking a little bit about and prepping a little bit on the next one. Maybe I'll do the prep work on the model and the perhaps the base, or at least have the idea for the base, so it's like quick to kind of realize the thing as soon as the previous one um, finishes. It becomes an issue when I don't, and it also falls on top of competition. So between competitions, it's kind of this like the ball is rolling. You kind of have a goal. Oh, I want to fill this category, or I want to realize this thing that I had in my mind. If if let's say a Adepticon like this year happens, and I finished my last project almost just on time. Not quite. I had like 10 extra days or whatever. But now it's so close to competition that I'm like, yeah, I could, but I don't think I'll be starting a new thing before. I've worked hard on this and I need to, you know, take care of other things. Then competition rolls around. You do good or bad or whatever. And then you have a little bit of a post competition blues. Or, well, I say you, but I mean me. um, and you also don't have a project on the go. What then?
Mm. Yeah.
Now you're waiting for inspiration. Can you force it? Yes, somewhat, but not really, right?
No.
Well, some people maybe can. I find that a little bit I can, but not really. I can subject myself to um, a ton of inspiration, right? Which means that sometimes it sparks a thing. Oh, I really would want to do this, or I love the colors of that, or whatever, and then it can kind of get the ball rolling. But forcing creativity, I don't find that it works. I agree with the whole wave thing that you need to jump onto it when it's there. It's exactly how I feel.
Mm.
Others, like people in creative fields, in like their day jobs, they might feel different. They might feel, or maybe they're just so good at their job that they can kind of, even when they force it and it's not, it's a little bit half-assed. It's definitely good enough for whatever their job is, right? Like let's say commission piece, where you don't have to do your best work on the commission piece because the client will be super happy anyways, right?
And
So
the
of course
thinking
that
can be done for you if it's like, hey, paint this in this scheme. That's what I want.
sure, yeah, yeah. So you maybe turn it into a little bit of a different thing, but for most people being creative for themselves, for their own projects to be excited about, y- you kind of have to wait for it,
Yeah.
and
I,
it
I
can
like,
take a bit, right?
yeah, I can force it. Because
You can,
I do creative work like as a job, but I don't want to. Like I would rather feel this genuine sense of it. Like when a project is winding down, I am thinking like, oh, what's next? Like, what could I paint next? And this last time, as I was finishing Elrond, I was really worried because nothing was grabbing me. Like I'd had a few ideas like a few weeks previous, I was like, oh, I really want to do that. And then, sometimes it's like you like the idea conceptually a little bit, and then you think about it a bit more and you sour on it, and you look at the
Totally.
practicalities of doing X, Y, and Z. And that's what I'd done. And I was left with just nothing. And it was getting like, I was getting closer and closer to being done. I was like, oh, and that became, it wasn't like a crisis because it's like, I'm sure I'll find a way through, but it was like, oh, why is there nothing?
Definitely a stressor, right?
Definitely a stressor, 100% a stressor. And you then begin to question things. Oh, why aren't I getting excited? Like, what does this mean for the, and like eventually something came along. I was like, no, I really want to do that. But like, could I have like, if I hadn't had anything and the project finished, I would have started on something and then probably abandoned it because I wouldn't have started it with the right mindset. So I feel so like I do try and have essentially always a project in buffer ready to go, because I do get the point someone made, like the respondent made about like, look, basing and building and prep isn't what they enjoy. They enjoy painting. Like
Same.
I super get that. But after like a real busy painting period, I've come to appreciate, like, I try and finish my builds in a week. So it's like, look, you're having a week off the brush, and you're not putting yourself under pressure to paint. You are going to hobby, but you're just going to be building and prepping stuff and just trying to enjoy that time, because when you paint, you'll be back to like that thing. But I 100% get it as like a barrier to getting the thing that you want to do done.
I think especially because, at least for me, fundamentally, those things are so different. Um, Painting for me is very much coloring within the lines. Of course, I do different textures and whatever, all of these things that you can do within the line. So it's not quite in a like coloring in a coloring book, but it resembles that though. Someone gave the form and you put color on it, right? Whereas as soon as you need to do basing and composition and a little bit of sculpting and all of these things, now you have no form, or you maybe have very little form. It might be that you have the one model that you wanted to paint, but you need to create something to complement it. And that is a different discipline for sure, which means if I'm excited for a thing, I have the idea, I know exactly what I want it to look like. That part is not a stressor. It's not a struggle point. It's not. It will come together because I know what I want it to look like, and I can, you know, shape it roughly, and I can change it a little bit, and so on and so forth. But if you're in this mental state where you're a little, I don't know, down on creativity, or unsure what you want it to look like for one reason or the other, yeah, that becomes a real barrier. Like, even just doing, I think it's why a lot of people, they just don't really do a base before they start painting.
Yes.
It's because I don't have the idea. I don't know what I want it to look like. I just want to paint this cool model.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it becomes, because you constantly get told, well, do the base and do do something that complements, and it has to look good, and all these things, and it's like, oh, but I just really wanted to paint though. I just wanted to paint within the lines, a little bit
Trying to
of,
do my hobby that I enjoy, please.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And both things can be the hobby, right? It's not that, and oftentimes is, but I 100,000% get, sometimes when you're just not in the mind for it, sculpting is the hardest mountain to climb for me, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's a lot. It is so much to do. We're nearing the end of our themes. We only have two left. There's a lot of 9 themes. Segment 8, guilt, family, and finding the balance. Not every struggle is internal. Several responses dealt with the friction between hobby time and the rest of life. One person described guilt about time spent at the desk instead of with family, complicated by a parent who views the hobby from a distance as an obsession, even while their partner is fully supportive. The standout practical answer came from someone who sat down with their wife and negotiated it openly. A couple of dedicated painted evenings a week, with other evenings reserved for family and everything else. Clear expectations, no simmering resentment on either side. The same respondent shared something that's almost philosophical. They made peace with the fact that even painting every single day, there would never be enough time for everything they want to paint. Once you accept that, the pressure lifts. They've deliberately scaled down 1 or 2 major pieces a year, slower, more deliberate, and each project gets the attention it deserves instead of racing an algorithm to the next thing. This is, I think, a key thing. Certainly, if you were to look at our community, we have a good number of people in relationships with families. Like, this is time away from them because, as we talked about earlier, it's an isolating thing, and like, you got to be on the same page because it's
I think
such a
so too.
source of friction otherwise.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, especially because if you don't have a partner that kind of de-stresses the same way, I mean, not necessarily painting, but something that is just a quiet thing on your own, away from the busyness. They might not do that at all. Then they probably won't understand. Like, how many relationships where one person just want to do computer games and the other person hating them for it. So now, because it's stressing you out, you try to escape into a computer game. So instead of needing an hour away, now you want 2 or 3 or 4. So it's like, actually, that I think it's a spiral. It can push you into it more instead of less. And it's not to say, oh, if your partner is super accepting, then you can do 5 minutes a day. It's not like that. But it's just to say that I I understand the frustration, and I think communication is the only way. I honestly do. Uh, I like the idea that, yeah, sitting down and saying, okay, would it be possible that we say these are painting days, just the same as if I went to, I don't know, football training or whatever? Then these are my days, and even to the point where I guess the flip side, or the thing here is, what happens then if that's a day where you're burned out? Now you're stressing because you're missing your window to do the thing because you set it into a schedule, blah blah blah. So, of course you can talk about, okay, but what if that is a shit day? Can I move it, or can I whatever? But I think having the conversation is the key. We um we did a thing, me and my wife, where we basically agreed of a weekly day away. It's not a full day, and it's not like, but it just means that if you want it, you can go away 1 day a week. My day is Friday. I haven't been the past couple of Fridays, but it's because I didn't feel like I particularly needed it, and I wanted to be home.
No.
But it's kind of my day where we already talked about it. We already know that, unless some, of course, if if the house burnt down and, whole family on the street, and we're scrambling to, I wouldn't be like, yep, off to the pub with the guys. It's not
But
like
it's
that, right?
Friday.
Like, exactly. But it's just to say that, if nothing is, out of the norm particularly, well, that's the day where I take some hours, and it's not a full day, and it's not, but it does matter. And I think not only for painting, I think for anything, like communication, saying, well, I would like some time for myself. Is there some way I can do it? And I don't want you to resent me for just wanting to play games, or wanting to sort my stamp collection, or wanting to paint the minis, or go out playing golf or whatever, because it's my time, right? I think it's, yeah, super important.
I was in the trap where, a long time ago, I'd almost be like, sometimes my mentality is like, oh, well, if something's a problem, like, wait for someone to say something's a problem. You shouldn't do, like, you should be more proactive. You should be like, hey, like, is this
Yeah.
okay? Like, do try and seek permission, not forgiveness. Certainly when you're talking with family, because that's like, unfortunately, our time is finite, and if you have people that like to see you, it's important to see them. And so it is a case of, like, don't just rely on them trying to pull you out of it. You have to try and communicate that forward. But And this comes to the comment about like the person whose parent views it as an obsession. You also can back yourself up in terms of how important it is to you. I think although we do like the silly self-deprecating, oh, it's just painting toy soldiers, it is, but it means so much more than that, and therefore you can feel free to like, I need to do this for X reason, not just I need to do this because it's a fun little thing I do to tune off from the world. If it provides you real world benefits, you should be able to kind of back that up.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to kind of like have the confidence in yourself to say, well, if the person that is closest to me says, yeah, this is okay. You clearly love this thing and you're not, it's not an abusive relationship to it. Well, maybe not tell your mom to fuck off, but at least in your mind be like, yeah, but they can have their opinion, but really, you know,
Giggood says, "Tell your mom to fuck off."
oh, maybe not. But
But
I
yeah,
mean,
back
it's
yourself.
just to be have the confidence in your ability to kind of like, okay, I can regulate this thing. I can, of course, sometimes you can look in the mirror and be like, okay, am I doing this to escape real life? Am I doing this? But I would say it's probably not a majority of people who are in an abusive relationship with painting minis. I don't think so, at least.
We'd like to hope not.
We like to hope not. And I would be very surprised if it was.
Um, so the final of the themes, process over outcome, the prevention mindset. I wanted to close this with the two most reflective responses we received, both about prevention rather than coping. One respondent shared a long and generous account of burning out and dropping out of university years before finding the hobby, crushed by comparison, isolation, and self worth, staked entirely on outcomes. What they took from rebuilding and what they carry into painting now boils down to three things. First, awareness of comparison is half the battle, knowing what it does to you when left unchecked. Second, build what they call an unerasable baseline of self-worth from your past finished worth, so no single result can touch it. And third, make the process the point. If you're fully happy with a piece while making it, then awards and other people's reactions become, their phrase, cherries on the cake, placed there by people and decisions you never controlled anyway. The second came from a career instructor who took up the hobby deliberately to practice what they preach. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Learning is a series of progressive failures, and the failures are the point. Embrace the suck, collect the little wins, and evolve. They said they're honestly starting to like the failures. This is something I super struggle. Liking failures is not in my DNA. I really struggle with it.
Too.
I'm very much pulled away from experimentation because of it.
Yeah. I think well, it's not, I think. I've said it many a time now that it is definitely one of the things, like the one for an output where the quality baseline of that is wherever definitely makes me experiment less, for sure. Like the whole fact that there are only so many hours in a day. So feeling like you wasted them on something that doesn't look good because you did something you weren't comfortable with is a massive struggle for me, like massive. It's definitely the one thing that is holding me back the most. And I'm not saying that as someone who's doing bad or trying to say, oh, I'm not good enough or I'm not, because I don't want it to sound that way. I realize fully that I'm doing really well in terms of painting, and that a lot of people look at what I paint and are, you know, amazed by it and looking up to it. So I'm not trying to say it in that way, but just so that people know that I'm very aware that it is probably a flaw in the way that I paint and do projects and stuff like that. The fear of failure is very, very, very strong with me. So strong. And I think it definitely comes from past experiences in other things, not from painting necessarily, but from I'm a dropout too. I never finished school, and I think about it almost every day.
Mm.
How I mean, I don't wish to be a different person necessarily, but I oftentimes think of how different could my life have been? How different could it have been from my family? How could like all of these things if I had just stuck to the thing that everyone told me to stick to, right? And I didn't and I couldn't. And it's not like I live with the consequences of my choices and all of that. And I'm doing well. Thank you. So it's not like, but it is something for me, right? And it
Yeah.
means that I think a lot of us have like past failures that way in one way or another. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be school like it is for me. It could be anything. And it is probably preventing you from taking more chances than you do,
Yeah.
right?
100%. I
Because
mean,
it is a finite resource. Time is a finite resource, right?
yeah. And mine's so baked into like this idea of letting people down, even though it's like,
Yeah.
I can talk like divorced from my emotions in a way. It's like, yeah, I know, letting no one down. No one's putting these expectations on me, but I would still feel it. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that, you know, if I'm looking at a big project that just makes me dial it in a little bit, that just makes me be a
Yeah.
little bit more conservative, and that it's probably the only part of the hobby that I worry about in some ways. It's like, well, how, do I just reach the point where I'll just have to say, you know what? I don't want to win anything anymore. I'm okay with like making a sign of showing my failures. It's why I'm really tempted to do that kind of like bust a day thing, just to completely blow it out. Like just
Yeah.
try stuff and see how you get on. Um, I think that becomes quite could be a beneficial thing, but this is the thing that I think resonates so much with me. Um, Fear of failure and being able to talk about it openly and honestly. I mean, I think there's probably something like tied into the whip thing as well. Like someone, I don't like that. Would that then feel like failure? Is that also a protective
Uh,
mechanism? So much of this interlinks.
I really like the comment on try and establish a baseline of self-worth or like
Yes.
self-confidence. Like have this try and see if you can have this baseline. I know it's not as easy as it's said. I realize that, but it still does ring true. If you can have some kind of baseline where it's like, okay, so I can look at this body of work and it is wherever, right? And I'm feeling pretty good about it. And it's so it means that if you have a single point where, oh, I didn't do as good at this competition, or um, I didn't like the way that this model particularly turned out, or these mean comments or whatever. Like it's so many things, right? Well, at least you have the baseline of, yeah, but I had this amount of support and this amount of success and this amount of whatever with these things, and I like the process for that, and I so now you have something to kind of fall back on. I do agree. I do agree. I wish it was easy, but it isn't.
I mean, I don't think there's anything more to say, is there? Like, if you've been listening to this, I guess maybe the key thing is you're not alone in feeling these ways. That there are
No.
you're not a weirdo for having those feelings. You're not like abhorrent in any way, and like different people have different coping mechanisms, different strategies, and some things that work for some will not work for others. I think being able just to talk and unload can sometimes be the biggest help.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember and realize that um meaning painting is also just a part of life. So if you can feel this in every other aspect, why couldn't you feel it here, right? If you can have the anxieties and the doubts towards jobs or family or friends or wherever it is, everywhere in your life, if you can have it there, well, of course you can have it in mini painting too, because it is still just a part of life. It's just a part of you. It's just a part of, and it, it's okay to feel that sometimes, right?
Yeah. It's okay
So
to
if
not be
you,
okay. My most
yeah,
repeated
it
thing in
really
my
is.
day, like
Yeah,
whenever I'm feeling, I used to really beat myself up for when I was feeling anxious, and it's just like, look, you're not great, you're not doing great. That's fine.
yeah, yeah.
Um, to everyone who responded to our call out for submissions, thank you so much. Some of you shared things that clearly weren't easy to write. And I just hope that we've done your words justice as we've gone through this episode and talking about these things. If anything in this episode has resonated with you and you're struggling, please reach out, whether to the people that you feel that you can trust in your immediate environment, or look, I mean, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Discord, I'm everywhere. Just grab me if you need to just offload to someone. I will try and respond as soon as I can. Like, we are ultimately here to support each other, and that is all we can do. If you see someone in need and you need to help them out, do so. If you need help, reach out. Otherwise, people may look over it. But yeah, this is probably not. I mean, by all means, go and paint something beautiful, but also you can just go and just be happy. And thank you for listening to this. As I say, I'll put resources in the description. I'll put a link to the submission if you just want to offload and put some stuff on. But otherwise, yeah, thank you so much for listening and watching, and we shall see you next time. So long.